I'm here with Cassie Kozyrkov, the one and only. She's the chief decision scientist at Google. Don't get to say that often. Maybe that's why I didn't know off the time. And brilliant in all things decision science and data science. She also has an AI class that all of you guys have to take. It is on YouTube. It is 100% free, and it's called Making Friends with Machine Learning, which works because we're friends. So I feel like I too have made friends with machine learning. It is
machine learning.
Yeah, on the topic of machine learning,
learning every day.
Yeah. While we're here, I'm gonna go ahead. Hey, Jared, I'm glad you shared that. I'm gonna see if I can pin this comment so that everyone coming in knows what we're chatting about. So a lot of you guys shared questions ahead of time on Instagram. We have them fully pulled up, ready to rock, and we are super excited. At the very least, I wanted to kick off with maybe our meet cute. Okay. And just how we met. So we met in Amsterdam.
We met in Amsterdam
4 years ago.
Was it 4 years?
4 years, pre-COVID.
Wow, okay.
Yeah. It's been a while.
Well, we went to this beer place called Golem. Was it Golem?
It was
Who
the
knows
place.
Amsterdam? Is Golem good? Are you guys judging us that we
I'm sure there are folks in here from, we got hello from India. Yeah, where's everyone coming in from? Let us know. So we met in Amsterdam, and a couple of things stood out in my first meeting of Cassie, which is beyond brilliant. She took the stage, was a keynote with thousands of people in the audience, and dazzled everyone. Number two, she knows amazing bars in pretty much every country around the world. And so if ever you are having a talk with her in Japan or Peru or whatever, she'll probably have a bar recommendation. And the third thing is that she has an unbelievable sense of connecting the dots across things. So she can talk about art. We're going to the theater later tonight. She actually recommended a museum that I go to, and it was the one with that humongous saw.
Wait, where?
It is the one with the huge words that are on the second floor. The words with the escalator.
Which city?
Goes up. Amsterdam.
Right? I was like, the world is big. Which museum did they tell you? Because you're everywhere and I'm everywhere. I was like, wait, is this in San Francisco?
This is pre-COVID, which I feel like I had a brain transplant between now and then. We got folks coming in from Egypt, from California. We are excited to crack into this. If there's anything that you wanted to share on the top, I do have one other thing, but any other things you want to share?
No, I'm ready to get into it.
Yeah. The other, just caveat, kind of high level thing. So one, we have a bunch of questions. We're going to go through that. We're also going to be taking questions from the live. So if there's follow-ups, feel free to shoot them into this chat. The second thing is Cassie does amazing work at Google, but she also does amazing work outside of Google. And so just know she is here because she's my friend. This is not a company corporate event, right? So we're going to be diving into these AI questions. And Cassie has decade plus of knowledge in this space, probably 2 decades. So here we go. Ooh, Las Vegas, go Knights, go. Okay, number one, let's talk about pretty high level advice for folks with a technical background, but folks that don't have machine learning or AI experience, and how can they break into AI?
Is that for me?
Yeah, go ahead and start.
Okay, I need to hold forth on another thing first, which is, I keep having to tell this to people because, and it hurts the listeners, but here we go. Oh no, the TV has decided to speak on my behalf, so I'm just going to shut up and let the TV do it. Nice. So the thing is, if you were excited by AI 7 months ago, you were actually excited by AI capabilities. If your excitement has birthed in the last 7 months, you're actually not excited by AI, but you're excited by something else. And that something else is actually user experience design, because that's the big change, that AI capabilities have been put in a kind of in-your-face manner into the hands of the non-technical user. So anyone who can write a chat message can now interact with an AI system to get text processed or have a beautiful piece of AI art made. And that does not require any kind of technical background. And there is AI there. It's just that AI has happened before the app and interface got released. So companies like Google, OpenAI, the others that build the foundational models, that have created the thing like ChatGPT or Bard or whatever it is, there's a lot of AI going on there. The thing that a lot of people are excited about is, after that point, not really so much AI. And so when we say folks with a technical background, no machine learning and AI experience breaking into AI, okay, so let's talk about what this could mean. Because this could mean, how do I join one of these big enterprise skills teams that's going to do foundational AI work? In which case, we can chat about that in a moment. Maybe we will. The answer has not changed that much from what the answer would have been a year ago. On the other hand, if you're like, how do I break into AI, which is all these apps and new capabilities and things out there, frankly, first, everybody who's reading about ChatGPT or Bard or the rest of them and hasn't tried it, why would you do that? It's faster to try the damn thing than to read about it. I mean, why?
Just do both, because then you're trying.
Just try the thing.
Actually is faster. Yeah.
It's faster to try it than to read it. So everyone who's like reading these articles of like new things, and it's the same new things over and over, like breaking news, the 10 things that have been released, and still ChatGPT on that list every time. I mean, come on. But just try the damn things.
Cassie's cracking a joke because I posted that exact post yesterday. It's okay, but that's why I'm saying it's the combo. There's like hundreds and thousands.
Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, we challenge
I put my mouth in it. I put my foot in it.
But thousands of tools. If there's a way to narrow it down, obviously just starting with ChatGPT or Bard or any of these is a really solid first place to start. If you're then trying to figure out long tail, look up one of these lists, look up the 5-10 tools that they say and test one of those. You don't have to search thousands of tools to then figure out what to test.
And when you test them, spend enough time with it to be both delighted, to find your zone of delight and your zone of disappointment. So if you're only delighted and you haven't found where it disappoints you, I guarantee you they will all disappoint you. You just haven't had enough time with it. Aren't I a great spokesperson for the AI world? But what I will also say is that from this perspective of like, just go try hands-on, see these apps and new capabilities, play with them. They are designed to be user-friendly. That's the revolution, the user-friendliness of AI. So if it's user-friendly, then any user, regardless of technical background, should be able to play with it. That's kind of the point. But now I want to come back to how the question is phrased. Advice for folks with a technical background and no machine learning and AI experience, breaking into AI, being the AI app stuff. Ali, is it possible to have, in that sense, no AI ML experience? In terms of apps and in terms of things on the internet that you have interacted with? Can you not have interacted with AI?
I can't see a world in which that would happen, but it has to do more with supply and demand, and not because I don't think you'd have strong insights off the bat. So if I am running an AI company and every time I post a job, because it's such a hot space, 250 people apply, I'm going to want to pick people who have a sort of portfolio, who have been testing out these tools, who have formed opinions on not just the delight moments, what they can do, but also the limitations. And when you get frustrated with these platforms, I want to talk to someone who's tested out my product and has an opinion, right? Regardless of whether you're interviewing for a project management role or general counsel or any of these different types of roles that are not just machine learning engineer, I want to hire someone who's coming in with a little bit of an opinion, even if it's a little spicy, and that opinion could be largely generated by actually testing these platforms. I personally, if I'm, again, hiring for AI, I would never hire someone that hasn't even tested ChatGPT or Bard or any of these, because it's such an obvious low-hanging fruit. And there was a stat that only 14% of US adults have even tried ChatGPT.
80% of statistics are made up in this book.
Well, it was true.
Also, how would they know? I'm a recovering statistician. How would they ask me? What I've been doing to that sample? Was it a random sample? Bullshit. Anyway, someone wrote
the likelihood that it's actually 90% when this thing says 14, probably not, right? But it's low. The takeaway is it's low.
It's low.
And so if I'm hiring, these jobs are so hot right now that getting exposure, whether it's, reading some newsletters, testing out these tools, I would add in one thing, which is, if you have a technical background, you should also be learning how AI and ML is impacting your role. Okay? What was it?
And those statistics are already outdated now. So
yeah, right.
I see you.
So how is it actually impacting your role? And your role could be an engineer, software engineer, and so maybe you want to become a machine learning engineer. Your role could be technical. You could be doing security ops, right? And just now you're using ML to impact security ops. But I would also definitely dive deep into tools that are specifically impacting your role to figure out how you could do your role more efficiently.
And that's also advanced advice, even more basically than that. So part of what I'm playing with in this, the way this question is phrased, is if we are talking about what AI can be used for rather than building foundational enterprise scale stuff, but rather like, how do I take AI tools, apps, etc., and plug them in some interesting way? Having no machine learning AI experience in that sense is not possible. That's what I'm trying to say. If you've been on the internet, we're using this thing right now, we're interacting with something AI on Meta's site, I'm sure. Now, part of the skill is, are you able to see where on the internet you are actually interacting with machine learning and AI? Learning to see it will teach you how to ask the right questions, will teach you what you need to know about in terms of what that technical stack looks like. So if you don't even know where all the AI stuff is that you're interacting with, instead of running and taking some course, like start watching for that, start learning more about it.
It's almost, I was having a conversation with someone about this yesterday, and it's about being like a more conscious consumer. This is my horrible example. I was in college a cappella, and this woman in the class above me, right before I joined, said, just a heads up, before you join this group, this singing in a cappella will ruin music for you for the rest of your life. And it was because as you're consuming songs, you will start to consume it as an a cappella singer, and you'll start to hear alto parts, you'll hear tenor parts, whatever. Similarly, as you're consuming, Instagram or Netflix, or whatever, you're probably consuming it as a non-ML ready person. But what we're both advocating for, what Cassie brought up so brilliantly, is like, be a little more conscious about how these things are popping up into your everyday, and start to take into account whether it's recommendation engines, whether it's speech to text when you're using Alexa, who's now going to say something. That is a solid starting point. And I love that you gave such an easier starting point.
And also the other thing is the distance from non-ML, if you want to call it that, to the software engineer or technical background person who can at least interact with ML stacks and do enough dabbling to, get something plugged together. That's not that difficult. The essence will be the reliability piece. Okay, you made it work kind of. What are all the things that are about to go wrong? And I would almost say, if I had to choose between advising you to spend like 90% of your time on AI courses and versus 10% of your time on reliability courses, and flip it to 90% reliability, 10% AI, I prefer hire the reliability person.
My advice might be slightly different, only because I'm speaking to a specific person, right? Not literally
just the one of you.
Yeah,
the one,
it is one.
Everybody else, close your ears.
Which is someone who doesn't really yet know about this space, and I want to reward experimentation in early education. I still think productionization is one of the most important things, and a lot of these papers that we're reading about are one researcher or a team of researchers running something on their laptop, right? Or running something on just their own GPUs, and they don't work in the wild. And so if you're trying to be an engineer and trying to actually productionize these things, then totally I would look into ML ops and how these things are actually working. Or orchestration tools, or
reliability mindset. Just the minute that you think it's an entity or a robot, or it thinks for itself, or just that you expect it to work. Rather than you know how someone's an AI veteran? You expect everything to break. Anytime it works, it's amazing. What? It worked. Who'd have thunk it?
For real. The failure amount.
And we only show you the good stuff, right? We show you thoroughly tested stuff. And only the best stuff gets out the gate. You don't see that out of chaos behind the scenes.
But this is taking what you were saying before, which is use a product until it disappoints you. And that failure mode might be on the accuracy of a model, but it also might be, man, this latency sucks. Why is, GPT-4 responding so slowly? And why is 3.5 so much faster, right? These are the sorts of questions that we encourage you to ask. Should we go on to the next one?
We should.
Okay.
Also, I saw someone was being surprised that I used the SH word.
I saw that too.
Pardon my Shakespeare, everybody. It's so delicate. I'm so sorry. Turns out.
Cassie's one of the most poetic people, so she can use any single word that she wants.
I thought you were going to say, hang out with me in a non-professional context. And you find out it's not that unusual.
Okay, how can analytics teams use AI and absorb it for their productivity? Analytics teams specifically.
Okay. So about analytics. The point of analytics is to navigate your data as quickly as possible and absorb it into your brain as quickly as possible. Figure out what the potential insights might be as quickly as possible and convey that to someone else as quickly as possible without wasting their time. The whole thing is all the nuanced versions of speed. How quickly can I go through this without snoozing past the good insights, skip the red herrings if I can, and make sure that I can hold a superposition of different perspectives. Those are the kind of core analytics skills.
Good quantum term.
Well, okay, actually, before I get into this, I have two things I want to say about analytics. Tangents I haven't been on. I've been meaning to publish these blog posts. I haven't done it. So I have this sneaking suspicion about two little tricks.
Okay.
For analytics aptitude, for checking analytics aptitude. You can do it sneakily at a party. No one will even know you've done it.
Okay.
So the first one is 20 questions. I'm amazed by how few people are very good at the game of 20 questions. You know this one?
Oh yeah, you should just keep splicing the world in half. Like, it's the same thing with Guess Who.
Yeah.
Like, your first question shouldn't be, do they have a beard?
Exactly. Can you land on, can you have equal amount of stuff on either side of your question?
Your tree diagram should keep splitting things in half.
Try playing.
Unless you have an insight into someone where you're like, I bet they're gonna pick.
But even so, you still have to split in half
what
the
you
direction
think,
on the inside.
Completely agree.
Right.
Yeah.
So, and you would be amazed how even people who are trying to be in these technical sort of careers, they don't think this way. And it catches up. It catches up when you have to go and split logic with, trying to understand what you're looking at with the data. So 20 questions is a very good core skill. See, you get it.
Yeah.
People don't get it. And then the other one.
I just love games. It's not the
other one is, I'm gonna do show. No, I can't do show and tell because you told me to turn my phone off. Okay, Rorschach plot. Those of you
really?
Yes. So think about this. So I show you a Rorschach plot. So
it's the ink blots for everyone.
Yeah.
But it's like this on a sheet of paper.
You fold the paper, you open it, and you go, does this remind you of your mother or whatever that Freudian psychology thing. It's not about the psychology. The point is, you hold it up to someone.
Yeah.
And then the person who I think has less aptitude for analytics will see it and they'll be like, that looks like a bat.
Okay.
And they will stop.
And the analytics person's like, that's a bar chart.
And foxes and, it's children playing in the sunshine and they will keep going through 20 different...
Gotcha.
And they can see them all simultaneously without leading themselves straight into... Just, this is the story, this is convenient, and I stick to it. Because you pair that with confirmation bias, you pair that with bad incentives. When an analyst isn't told, just go look at stuff, don't worry. Because, see, you tell me, go look out the window, you have 2 weeks to spend looking out the window. Now, there might be something for me to see, and I might be like, and on the basis of this, I can tell you all about how New York works.
I love
whatever. Or, maybe there was nothing outside the window, I spent my good, honest 2 weeks, and there was nothing there, so... What is it my fault?
Yeah.
But as an analyst then, I'm like, well, now I'm gonna get punished because I didn't see anything. Let me start making some stuff up.
Yeah, which is
and let me start overemphasizing this kind of looked like a bat, but now I'm gonna draw you Dracula out of this.
Yeah. Yep.
You do not want that.
Massive overfitting and
terrible. Yeah. So it's speed, it's humility, it's that superposition of perspectives. And what is the AI revolution right now, the UX one? But individual productivity. Individual productivity means, can you use this thing for speeding up your process without tossing your quality into the trash can? If you can balance those two things, you will absolutely use these tools. All of it's going to be human in the loopish, but how can I, even something as simple as old school unsupervised learning, that's grouping like with like, right? Taking a bunch of stuff. The way you think about unsupervised learning is an attic full of stuff you've inherited or someone's terrible storage locker, hoarders, whatever, think of that. There's no instructions. Someone just says, go sort it out, clean it up, put the similar things with the similar things. You don't know what kind of things. You don't know what similar means. You're just going to do your best and put it into groups. Similar idea here. And when you do that for analytics, you're like, okay, let's just try out different groups real quick. You don't have to go and manually, physically move it around into groups. But like, let's see if there's something inspiring. No, split it into 5 groups a different way. Split it into 50 groups this way. Am I inspired yet? Keep going. Walk towards something that will start inspiring you about what to do next. All these AI tools, all these code tools, Copilot type tools, they are good for this if you're using them to accelerate yourself. Analytics teams live on intelligent, nuanced notion of speed. Faster, faster, faster. Does this help you be faster? 100%. Unless you misuse it and then you spend all your time.
I'll add everything that you said was absolutely brilliant. And I love that you started it at a high level to say, like, when you think about analytics, here are some portions of analytics that you might not even be thinking, including cleaning of data, including gathering data, including having hypotheses before you even look at the data.
Analyst doesn't. Open mind. Look, you want to come to a Rorschach plot with hypotheses? No. Nothing.
Fine.
Open mind. Superposition.
Okay. But one thing that you did do was walk through all these steps. And so I, maybe on a more like tactical, like smaller side, is that AI is being used in each of these steps. There's AI for ETL. There's AI for like data aggregation and just literally just cleaning up your data, right? So that was that whole first step. Using something like Code Interpreter or SageMaker Canvas or any of these like spreadsheets and help me create an ML model that does whatever. And another thing that I'd maybe think through, and something that we did a lot at Amazon, was like predictive and consistent tracking. So imagine that in the use case that you were sharing, the analyst is just receiving data and then Rorschach looking at all the different things. You might be at a company that literally has to report weekly, monthly, daily things. And so as you're thinking about the many KPIs that you might be tracking, thinking ahead and going, should we also be considering time series tracking? Should we also be considering anomaly detection? Should we also be considering, this is kind of similar to your like clustering thought. Wow.
Keeps wanting you to take a
I know.
break.
I have
time for a break. Should we go on break? Who wants us to go on break right now?
And now for an intermission.
For an intervention.
She's like, intervention.
Someone shut up, stop being on Instagram.
There was a comment on there that said, can you imagine playing Cards Against Humanity with these two?
I have played Cards Against Humanity. My mind is terrible.
And there was another one that said, we're at nerd level 3000. Listen, that's what you signed up for. That's why we're friends.
That just means they're sitting behind the scenes of Mystery Science Theater 3000ing us.
Little hands.
Yeah, saying some kind of comments about our comments.
Well, okay, that's our take on analytics. I'm going to jump in with an answer immediately before Cassie can even weigh in. One of the questions was, what is an essential course or book to read for a PM, or let's just say for anyone that wants to get into AI? I cannot recommend Making Friends with Machine Learning enough. It's a YouTube course. It's 100% for free. It's made by this brilliant, brilliant person. It is 120 videos, which might sound like a lot, but each video is like couple minutes.
Bite-sized.
Total bite-sized. It's like nano yummy AI. So that is one that I would definitely recommend. I tend to recommend for beginners, prediction machines and AI superpowers are both great starters. Depends if you like. Prediction machines is more about the business model and how things are working, and AI superpowers is a little more about macro economy and geopolitical stuff. So those are two good starting points. My number one book recommendation, no matter what you're doing, is the book Thinking Fast and Slow, even taking into account, that some of the studies are not replicable, but it is an amazing book. And kind of the direction of AI is this balance of type 1 and type 2. You saw Sam Altman talk about it. You saw Gary Marcus talk about it. It wasn't Sam Altman, it was Andrei Karpathy. But both these folks, very prominent, and a lot of folks obviously behind closed doors, are talking about this balance of type 1 and type 2 thinking and how we need both the machine learning side of things, but also the like rules-based symbolic system side of things. And those two need to come together. But definitely Making Friends with Machine Learning. I swear, if you guys don't write that down and you guys don't take it, I'm in the delete my Instagram. Okay, next
promises you won't keep.
Next question that I think we've already touched on a little bit, but maybe I can kick it off with a different side to it. With so much different information, which I completely agree, whoever wrote that, it is very overwhelming. And if you go to sleep shaking, wondering if you don't know the whole world of AI.
Wait, don't finish the question. I want to say a thing. Okay, so I'm amazed by the anxiety about which apps have been released recently. And we're falling behind, we're not keeping track of it. And yet, do you think they sleep okay not knowing all the apps on the App Store?
Yes.
Because it's the same thing.
Or all the websites on the internet.
You sleep okay, exactly.
I
it's
feel
like having those game demo CDs from the 90s, right? Remember being kids?
Oh my God.
And you were like, did I collect all the
This is
little
what I was
demo
excited
discs?
for mail.
Right?
I think
it feels like that. Stop.
I think we're in the transition phase, because I remember when apps were first coming out that I was excited, or when the internet first started, which both of us were around for, that I was wondering what those first websites are. And I think we're in this zone where it's like, okay, maybe for the first couple thousand, you have anxiety around it. Then when it becomes 100,000 plus, maybe then you realize that it's so big and you can't come into it. But
yeah, the FOMO is an illusion, says
Anna.
Yeah.
Thank you, Anna.
Thank you, Anna. The FOMO is an illusion.
And the book recommendations, that list was correct. So thank you for those. Okay. With so much different information, regardless of whether you feel anxiety or not now and in a couple months from now, large language models, AI hype, where should I focus to build a career in AI? So Cassie already mentioned user experience, which I think is a brilliant recommendation. And I honestly think that every engineer should care about design and vice versa. And it's that merging that made ChatGPT what it is and is making Bard what it is and all these things. There's one that I think a lot of people are now starting to come around to, which Rachel Woods just had this phenomenal guide about, which is AI automations and the ops of making these things happen. So it's not just submit a transcript or submit an audio file and get the transcript, or submit text and get it, AI Alley saying that phrase. It's what are you actually tying this into? And what are the 5 steps that's actually going to make a business thingy happen? And so Zapier is a really strong one here. There's some others like If This Then That, but Zapier, I would look at the page of OpenAI integrations. There's an entire page of just GPT plus Zapier plus DALL-E and all these things, and build one. You can build a Zapier Slack bot, not being an engineer, in 5 minutes. So I would...
don't read about it, try it.
Yes, try. I would consider, I think all the things we've said is a great set. I would just think about the, not only operationalizing of training of the model, all those things, but where does this then go to? What team needs this? What medium should this arrive in? Should this be audio or video or image? Who needs this and where should it go? And just start to do little automations around that.
So many software professionals hate me. I hate myself too sometimes about this. No, I'll tell you what.
You are loved.
I'm loved, but then I say spicy things like the thing I'm about to say right now, which is, if we take a broad view of things, everything we do with computers is all a temporary, hacky thing. Right? Computers in the first place, with their keyboards and their mouses, there's nothing natural here. Even writing, there's nothing natural here. Writing is a memory hack. We needed to be able to remember who owes how many cows to whom, back how many thousands of years ago. I'm going somewhere.
I'm here. I'm with you. I'm on the motorcycle, holding onto your waist.
Okay, good. So, I think when you're in it and you're some kind of developer, engineer type person, which I somehow am despite my treachery right now, you start to think that the tools should define you, that the tools are it, that the tools have their own reason for a thing. The tools are a temporary hack. By temporary, it could mean a day, a year, a month, a lifetime still temporary in the scheme of things? Do we really believe that the way that we interact with machines today is how we're going to do it in 500 years' time? Now, I would not take that bet, personally. When you start thinking that way, you realize all this stuff that we're doing to get code written, all the operating systems that we have, all the programming languages, they are absolutely hacky things.
Yeah.
And they come from a time when a few people, whether they were academics, they were in industry, kind of said, this needs to be built. And I, with my weird quirks, say, this is how the language should work. And that doesn't necessarily make sense in anyone else's head, but people eventually realize it's more efficient to learn that person's weird thing than to try to rebuild it themselves. And that's how Lego takes off, right? You could take someone else's building block and start kind of building on it. The point is, it's not necessarily true that there's any truth or beauty in any of these things. There's some hacky solutions. Okay, look, I know that like programming languages geeks are going to be like, Lisp is the most beautiful thing. Give me Haskell or give me death.
There's someone in this chat who's like probably.
That's why I said they're gonna hate me. That's
Rust.
okay. They can hate me. They can hate me. I can live with it. Anyway, all this stuff will get washed away eventually. What remains is the essentials. And what are the essentials? The why of doing things. The what's worth doing. The what would delight your fellow humans. That's essential.
Yeah.
What are those skills? Design, decision making. Those types of skills.
Yeah.
And they're not soft skills. People say the word soft like it's flimsy.
I have a better term for it. Do you have
skills that are hardest to automate?
Oh,
that's my term.
I had someone
what remains when you automate the rest.
Power skills.
Oh, power skills.
Which I kind of liked. Yeah. glad we have that in there.
Where's my just do the thumb trick.
Do you have more that you were gonna add there?
No, I was just saying all this stuff. Yes, I do actually. Yes. I'm prophesizing doom, but doom for a particular kind of career. Yeah. The non-creative careers. You know, I don't know if you felt this in school, but like you were a math major, right?
I started as a math major. Very good memory.
You had this problem too. And me as well, mathematical statistics. You know, people would ask us to prove we're very smart because we can do very boring things very precisely. And there was no space for waffling because the way these courses are taught, there's one right answer, you get it or you don't. And so can you go on a boring pilgrimage to get one right answer? See, a boring pilgrimage to get one right answer is to an AI expert what the perfect AI task sounds like. Is it a boring pilgrimage? And is there one right answer?
And do I want some other system to do it?
Exactly. Okay. That sounds like a perfect job for AI. So all of the people in our sort of generation where if you wanted to be like, hey, universe, I'm so smart, hear me roar. And everyone said, go take these courses, but there is one right answer and a nice boring path to getting it. These may not be the most generalizable skills. Whereas design, decision-making, the human communication stuff, that's not going away.
I actually love this is tied to another question, so I'll just bring it up now and maybe we can intertwine. One of the questions was, how do you see the role of knowledge workers evolving? And so what I would add to Cassie's amazing answer here is like things that I think are power skills that I certainly encourage my mentees to have. I say this, whether or not it's true, whatever, but I say you can summarize the world with two things: trade-off analytics and incentive management. And if you can really, really narrow in on those two things, you can sell a product, you can figure out which course to take, you can figure out who your co-founder should be, all those things. And those two, so trade-off analytics, which is every time you are saying yes to something, you are implicitly saying no to 9,999 other things. And every time you're saying no, it's because you might be waiting for a yes or because you have a stronger yes there. And so there's 100,000 courses you could take, 100,000 tools you could take, all those things we were just talking about. But you have to figure out what are you so excited for to say yes to, because that is saying no to everything else. And so anytime that you're also building a product, anytime that you're negotiating with your manager around what project your team should take on next, there's an implicit trade-off that you should think through. The second is incentive management, which you had around like who's making what decision, why, and what's the value. Let's say that you're pitching multiple AI ideas to your manager, and you have this brilliant thing and you go, well, this project is the fastest and the cheapest, and we have the expertise, and we can do it tomorrow, and it'll be done in 2 days. But if their incentives are not aligned to that project, right? Let's just say that they just want a promotion and they want to look good, and they're actually more incentivized to take on a more complex project or whatever. Or maybe they have no budget, and the thing you pitched, even though it's light budget, is $5,000 or something. Always thinking about what is the motivation of that person who has to say yes to me. And that is, even as you're figuring out your first AI project or figuring out what courses to take, I would certainly think through that. For this knowledge worker question,
I'm basking in spoken like a true economist. Day one, economics class.
I took Econ 1 in undergrad.
Economics. What is economics? The study of scarcity. And I'm like, there will always be scarcity. I better take more economics. So it worked on me.
Wait, also, I had a similar line when someone said, what is the study of machine learning? And I have never said this sentence, but I was like, it's minimizing loss. I was like, it's anti-loss. And that's what like machine learning is summarized as. So economics is observing.
You just say what's in machine learning is calculus. Like that just deeply
you can
crushes everybody's dreams. but about knowledge workers.
Yes.
So in that same way, about having a right answer, long and boring. You know how we learn to be knowledge worker. Those who are like one or two generations younger than us, be like, what are you talking about? The world was so weird when you were young. And this, what I'm saying, obviously applies to the generations before us as well. It's just thankfully changing nowish. Knowledge worker, does that mean I've memorized an encyclopedia? Because that was kind of how you took a class, you learned to memorize, you took an exam, could you regurgitate the whole thing? Now, if you have an implant that gives you perfect memory, this is the stupidest way of assessing anything. Everybody's a knowledge worker, just access the implant. Now, luckily, implants, they could get infected, but one of these things, right here, when Ali hasn't made me put it on airplane mode, right? Like, what is a knowledge worker? It's someone with access to the internet? I don't know. Can somebody tell me what the hell a knowledge worker is?
So first of all, I too have like an allergic reaction to some of these like corporate terms, like digital transformation, change management, knowledge worker. And I think that's just applying a term because people started not liking the term white collar jobs or something. So it's people who need access to, there's someone scaling a building across the street that distracted me slightly. It is someone who
that's
needs
analytics right there.
It's someone who needs access to knowledge. But I think like one of the best use cases for some of this early GPT-4 type things or ChatGPT or whatever is internal knowledge management, because accessing knowledge in a more efficient way or finding the right answer faster, better, stronger kind of thing, or finding connected dots faster is going to help you do your job, assuming you need to access some sort of knowledge repository to do your job. But you could be a customer support manager. You could be a project manager or product manager who needs to access research. You could be a software engineer who needs to access the latest machine learning paper, whatever. Every single person has to access knowledge at some point. And so thinking of AI instead as like a means of accessing that customized pipeline of knowledge, maybe in a better way, I just see every single person becoming far more productive at finding the nugget they need to then do the hard work.
Well, yeah, but also let's bash a little on these terms.
Yeah.
White collar, blue collar, knowledge, not knowledge. There's using your brain on the job, and then there's not. And you could do that in any profession, and sometimes it's terrifying. But look, You could take a job that is classically thought of as a thinky kind of job, and then you just derp the whole way through it. You might even be able to get away with it. I know some such people.
I'm saying there's a 2x2 of
forget the other thing. Do you actually think?
Yeah.
Or are you thunking all day? Is it thinking or is it thunking? Which one are we doing? Because if you could work any job, it could be such a totally all physicality kind of job, and yet you're thinking, how could I do this better? How could I do this better? Or how could I make it better for everyone? Or what are the problems with the process that prevents me from reaching my full potential as I'm running, swimming, lifting, whatever I'm doing? And in that moment when you're asking, how could I make this better? No matter what it is, ta-da, you're a knowledge worker.
Yeah, and maybe, I'm sure that there's some super official term, but even as we're talking about people who need access to knowledge, whether that's, you were just saying, personal trainer, car mechanic, whatever, these folks still need access to knowledge to then apply the knowledge to do a job. Are they considered a knowledge worker? I'm sure McKinsey has some super formal
Look, if whatever you do, all your ability to do it only comes from your own experience, almost surely you're missing out. We are a social species. Just please learn from other people. There is somebody who can help you be better. There is some information that can help you be better. Just be better. Whatever it is.
Be better.
Just be better. Thinking, not thinking. And then when you have all these tools that are saying, here, all these VCs are trying to foist these, there's all these startups going to foist these things upon you. Just please take the tool. Just be better. Just please. We'll make the user experience so easy. We'll make it idiot proof. We're not drunk.
Maybe there's a step.
Sober as a judge.
There's a step pre being better, which is thinking about what you might want to be better in.
Exactly, because
and
you don't
knowledge
have
access,
time,
right?
And you have to
knowledge access and efficiency are two awesome spots. I'm going to just scroll down because it stopped for some reason.
Oh, I see. I was like, everyone's just riveted by this knowledge worker thing. I'm just going to keep going on it.
I hear you saying adapt. Yes, absolutely adapt. And thunking is operating on autopilot. Do you agree with that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And look, I love a good thunk. Data entry is my favorite thunk. I don't have to do data. Data is not my job, data entry, but sometimes a nice glass of wine, a nice spreadsheet.
Oh my God.
Time for a break.
Sorry.
Instagram.
I don't know how to make that turn off.
It got excited. It was like, time for a break. Let's enter some data. Let's pour a glass of wine. Let's get some data.
Yeah. We're actually going to all have a manual data.
Now, when you're doing that kind of thunking, it's very relaxing. Or maybe you're folding the laundry, whatever it is that you do. It's very relaxing. In that moment, you are thunking. You're not asking, how could I do this better? Right? Chances are. You're just relaxing into it. And maybe you're listening in your headphones to some music or an audiobook. I totally thunk to audiobooks. It's great. It's nice. But in that moment, you're not asking, okay, when we're going to thunk down the column entering things, is this the right column? Should I be doing this in the first place?
Yeah.
Should there be other columns? How should I format this? It's those questions that are the thinking. Now the execution's just thunking.
What I'm excited for is Cassie to have a merch line. I think we've all sort of been waiting for the merch line.
I just made a website. I can put merch.
And your sweatshirt should say, think, don't thunk.
Yeah.
That's merch one.
Or it should say thunk on weekends.
That's way better. We're going to have thunk on weekends, mugs. We're going to have hats. You're going to see us.
All right, I'll give you a cut. All right,
we're losing our minds here. Let's get really serious.
Okay. So I don't know if I'm capable, but I hang out with you. I don't know.
I know. A couple people have suggested that we start a podcast together. And I
would
feel
have
like
too much fun.
We'd have to record for 5 hours to get 20 minutes of information. But David's gonna buy your merch. Brina's gonna buy your merch. This is great. Okay, there were probably 20 people that all asked about what types of jobs might change, what jobs might be in higher demand, what jobs might be in lower demand. I'm happy to start on this one. First is that I think Cassie's job is still pretty unique.
0 wine. Someone asked how much wine. 0 wine.
Oh yeah, how much wine?
Sober as a judge. No one here has had any wine. We're just we enjoy one another.
Diet Coke and water.
Yeah.
This is actually a Diet Coke sponsorship now. Okay, jobs that might change around or be higher in demand. I absolutely think that there's this AI ops role that seems to be coming up that is almost like head of, or not even head, but like automations manager, that someone's job is going to be thinking about how all these tools are interconnected, and that they're going to be going around to figure out, ooh, okay, this should go over there, and that should go over there, and that should go over there. And how can I make this like train line run more efficiently? That feels like one. Machine learning engineers, data scientists, all those things are still sticking around for a while. I still think that like decision science, and even like, I gave a talk about how AI is going to be more proactive and taking interventions before something happens, like preventative maintenance, fantastic example here, but how an AI system with a human in the loop would step in and say, oh, let's pre-order this, part of a machine that we think is going to break. And so I can like see a head of interventions or head of decision scientist, like that would have intervention as a component of that. Someone threw in chief AI officer. That's already happening.
It's already happening.
AI orchestrator, maybe. I think that there's like, that is probably a component of ML ops. And I see a big growth. We already talked about reliability, but like security managers, especially for ML, feels like that's been increasing. I've had a couple companies reach out to me for that. I gave a talk to some CMOs, and I was talking about how like maybe you'll have like an AI avatar manager or an AI brand manager, where as you're thinking about synthetic voices, synthetic avatars, synthetic brand personalities, that like there will be an internal marketing manager who runs that FACO, avatar or persona, or 100 personas that speak on behalf of your brand. Do you have other thoughts that you want to weigh on?
Well, I have my standard pitch it at any moment when you can pitch a thing.
Okay.
Which is, when all the technical stuff becomes fast, then we come back to the why and the how, and we realize, so we step away from the how and we get to the why and what's worth doing. And we realize that all this huffing and puffing and miserable TensorFlow and PyTorch and whatever you do because the tools suck, it's all just, when we're talking about the foundational stuff, right? Foundational AI rather than using apps. It boils down to 2 lines. Succeed on this objective using these examples. Another name for examples is data. So which examples should we learn from? What are we trying to do here? Those are fundamentally subjective decision questions. And when you have systems that affect millions of lives at scale, billions, I don't want any of you listening now ever to offend the memory and legacy of this Instagram live session by anthropomorphizing AI and being like, the AI did it. This is all objective. Some bunch of mathematics and wires made decisions. No, actually, what happened is behind the scenes, some bunch of people who are answering this question, which examples, what's the objective, they had made some judgment calls that are going to have big effect on the world. I want to say, if we're going to put people in that kind of position with that much leverage, I would like for us to start recognizing that decision-making is a skill. You can get better at it, and maybe these people should, invest in their decision skills or hire someone to help them think through it. Because this has massive impact. And people have this idea, I've been making decisions my whole life, I'm assured to be good at it. No. No, let me tell you. It's very easy to be bad at it, and it takes intentional practice to be better. And just letting people have such massive outsized impact without ever asking, did someone on the team have any grown-up skills to ask, was this even a good idea in the first place? It's horrifying.
I guess, so I feel like I had 17 thoughts as you were thinking, so I'm going to try and pick maybe 1 or 2. One is that whether this is everyone or this is like a point person in that room who's going to constantly be thinking about who else needs to weigh in, or what cohort or what persona or whatever is not yet represented in this room. That can be solved through a bunch of ways. If it's your end consumer, it could be user research. It could be pulling in design partners. If you haven't asked your stakeholders, who's going to orchestrate that? And so it's almost like...
And someone has to know to do that.
But it's not a project manager.
Yeah, it's what like I do. It's a decision scientist.
Okay, but you're thinking about also what data gaps you have as you're evaluating
the whole thing.
Okay.
The whole thing, so I see it as good decision making is turning information into hopefully better action.
Yeah.
Information comes in many forms. It can be a conversation, you give me some advice, I take it, don't take it. It can come in massive electronic form or small electronic form, whatever, that's called data. But whatever form the information comes in has to turn into hopefully better action. That's the decision-making piece. And everything that has to be part of that song and dance to make sure that you are able to turn the information into better action, right? That's all modern decision-making. We spend so much time being like, oh, this information is so hard to work with.
Yeah.
I'm going to forget why I was ever doing it because it's going to take me 2 years just to process this information. In a world where the actual mechanics of getting from state 1 to state 2 is very quick, now you have to stop hiding that. You have to stop hiding behind all the thunking. Again, there's so much thunking in data science. We don't ask, what is it for? Why? How does it serve the world? No, we just, let's calculate a p-value.
I do think, and I know I feel like you're going to hate this, which is my favorite moments. Code interpreter has a data gap flag. And this is it is early. I'm sure it breaks all the time. I'm sure it's not as accurate as we want it to be. But this is an early signal of you have data upon data upon data.
Decision science greater than data science.
Ramon rocked it out.
Yeah, that's right, Ramon.
2 thumbs up. Rows and rows and rows, columns and columns. And if you submit that data into Code Interpreter and you ask it a question that you might want to know about, insights, just like what was our profit margin last quarter or whatever. Pretty standard KPI ask. It'll flag back to you if it's missing a row or column that it needs to be able to calculate that thing. This is elementary stage of what you're talking about, and there's always going to need to be that human element to be able to flag what's missing. But I just think it's cool that there are now software tools that are combining with humans and decision scientists to be able to flag what those gaps are, to then say, let's skate to where the decision scientist puck is going. What insight, I feel like a lot of people, and this happened at my company 3 companies ago, but there would be this set of data and I would ask a question. I'd be like, how many customers did whatever last month? And the person would go, oh, well, we don't have that data. And I'm like, then go get that data. This is only going to be a more important question. I understand this is the first time I'm asking you, but your response shouldn't be, wah, wah, we can't. It should be within the bounds of liability and legal and all those things and finance. What is the trade-off? And should we now start gathering that item of data? And what is the value of having that insight?
And this is when people think about data as something different from other kinds of information, you get a lot of stupid thinking. So one of my signs of, I've got this maybe I should one day do a blog post on this, but my favorite 30 disqualifiers from being a good decision maker. It's hard when you're good, it's hard to compare, but when you have one of the disqualifiers, you're like, oh, you are not a good decision maker. And one of them is that you treat data as fundamentally different from
information.
Other kind of information. Yeah. Because it comes through this nasty spreadsheet database, whatever form of convenience that's different from clay tablets and wherever else we're going, just as a form of convenience, but it's information. You should think about it.
Yeah. Whether it's structured or unstructured. Tables or
it's the
chats.
Same kind of thing. And anyone who's allergic to data, it's are you also, do you want to cut off all your senses so you make sure you don't interact with the universe? You're weird. Don't be saying stuff like that. It's just information. Maybe it's useful, maybe it isn't. So it's like saying, I have it, and people have this feeling oh, but it's magical. I have data, therefore it should help. It's you had a conversation with someone, therefore you're well advised about your career path. No, it matters who you had the conversation with. And if someone says, maybe you should talk to someone who's been in that major or whatever, then you're like, no, I couldn't possibly do that, but I had a conversation with, someone who was a shoe. So clearly I had my conversation with the mirror, I'm finished, right? No, the quality of the information, the source, what it means, how it relates to things, all of this matters. It's not just magical. And the thing that you talk about, which is an absence of data, I worry that people who have this magical thinking about data will start to do, you can already see how the the dumb possibilities open up. So equivalent, and I like analogies because it separates people from the data stuff and just puts it in your face. So imagine we have a nice system, and whenever you go to the airport, as you're leaving your front door, it'll go, Ali, did you have your passport? I think you forgot your passport, right? And you check and you're like, oh, I don't have my passport. I better go upstairs. And we market this thing because we are a startup people, so we better overmarket and overhype our app. We're going to say, this is the travel protection thing. This is how you stay safe and make sure that when you get to the airport, you have everything you need. Now, technically, it is good to have your passport. But when you start thinking like that and you notice there isn't a flag, you've left your front door, you've gone out, and you're not hearing this thing go, hey, maybe you don't have your passport. If you're thinking the wrong way, you will go, therefore I'm safe. I've packed everything I need. I don't even need to think about it. It's not warning me about anything. Clearly I've got everything I need for my trip. And now problems start. Yes, it'll show you one row is missing. And if that one was critical and it was kind of easy and obvious that you were missing it, yeah, it's nice to have something go, hey, maybe get your passport. But it's no substitute for critical thinking.
I fully agree that we should not be over-reliant on systems as the full net catcher. That does not mean you shouldn't have an extra net catcher in software code form. Agreed?
Agreed.
Okay. We have just a couple minutes left, so we're going to end with some philosophical questions.
We were philosophical.
No, those were...
Those are unphilosophical.
We didn't even... That was thunking the whole time.
All the way through thunks.
We are, here are two questions, and maybe we'll have folks vote because I think we've only got time for one. So if you want, we're going to do hearts, like tap the screen if you want question 1, and comment for question 2. So question 1 is, when do you think the human race becomes irrelevant? That's heart. And for comment, the question is, will AI be the future God? So I know.
Who wrote these questions?
Listen, my Instagram followers do not mess around.
Okay.
They are a proud bunch. So vote for number 1 with hearts. When does the human race become irrelevant, if ever? Interesting way of asking, by the way, when and not if. Mm-hmm. And will AI be future God? Comment. Let's see.
They want the hearts. They want the hearts. Okay.
I'm seeing way more comments because someone can go like this with hearts. So that's actually pretty slow.
Okay.
It's more too.
Everyone's saying neither. Neither.
I don't know. Whatever.
You're right.
You win. Neither. Thank God. Ha. Thank God.
Ha.
Okay.
We can't give them number 2 because if they want philosophy, they know that theology is very, very difficult to talk about in 2 minutes, and we would be doing it a deep disservice because we would have to define our terms. And by the time that we've defined what is meant by the concept of God in a way that all members of our conversation can
let's instead offer, before Cassie has a full-on heart attack, let us offer questions for them to ponder.
Okay.
So on that question, will AI be the future God?
Humans will always be relevant because it's always humans taking the perspective, and we are already probably irrelevant in the eyes of the universe, barring such questions about God and the universe and other theological stuff. But any non-human observer probably thinks that we are rather irrelevant. But we are humans, and there's no such non-human... Anyway, that's why we're not doing this.
There was a stat that I saw, and we're going to go a couple, 2 minutes over. So just buckle up. There was a interview that I saw with, I think, a NASA research scientist who was talking about the amount that we've explored in space. Did you see this stat? Mm-mm. Even though I know you say that stats can be made up, but let's just trust this brilliant woman for a sec. She said that if the whole universe was the size of our, and I can't remember if it's all of our oceans or one ocean, but I'm almost positive it's all of our oceans, then humankind has explored the amount of water that we've explored a 12-ounce water bottle out of oceans upon oceans upon oceans and water upon water upon water. And so I think what you were saying of what does irrelevant mean? does that mean it's from like the point of view of and whether our values are important, or whether like literally in space we are taking up less time and having a smaller impact?
I was trying to say that even the thinking around a question like what does it mean for humans to be relevant is a fundamentally human question, and I was unable to articulate that intelligently because I got to my thunk moments. So the question itself is very human. Just, if you got humans left around to ask it, I'm sure we will continue asking it. Yeah. However, what the hell? How could we have people and have people be irrelevant? What does that?
Yeah.
What you're asking is, I don't know. Like, are we qualitatively different? I don't think that putting implants or not should be the difference. This thing already, when you compare us against humankind 200 years ago,
cyborgy.
Yeah, like the kind of memories we fly around like it's nothing. I'm like, hi, I'll meet you in Tokyo tomorrow. Blows the mind of anybody from 200 years ago. Right? Being able to do calculations at the speed, pull knowledge of that. We're already living in a time of miracles, but every time we're such brats as humankind. We get so used to it. A week later, it's not okay. 6 months later.
So maybe the questions to ask would be to ask yourselves. We're not going to answer this right now. One is, does technological advancement, whether it's literally incorporated into ourselves or an extension like a cell phone, does that impact our humanness? That would be one that you've brought up. Another is, what does relevant or irrelevant mean? And it doesn't seem to be synonymous with power or powerful or whatever. And actually not necessarily the highest value. You're basically saying, which I agree, that like the mere fact that something exists makes it clearly relevant because things are related to it, in the same way that dogs are very relevant, even though they don't speak our language and can't buy a house or whatever. So thinking about what makes something relevant or irrelevant, love that question. And what makes something human and not human, love that question. On the AI future God, I don't think we're going to get around to it. But if you had one question that you would serve up as, you know, the question, and I can start it if you want another second to think. Will AI be the future God? My question that I would ask this person or folks who are interested in that question is, why do people currently look to religion for things? And I'll leave that as generic as I meant it. And knowing what you know, oh my God.
Let me take a break.
I don't know how to turn that off. I was in the middle of just brilliance. I think that as you think about the value of religion to different people, to yourself, to your community, and as you think about what AI can not only do now, but what it will maybe be able to do, and what it maybe will be allowed to, systems would be allowed to do with humans, do those things overlap at any point is how I would think about that.
But I would still say that we have a sense as humans of the things that deserve our reverence. Regardless of our perspective, we have that sense. We don't maintain that sense for long with technology. So however else we feel about religions, I would bet against us sustaining any feelings like that about our technology. I mean, give this 1,000 years ago and it would blow everybody's minds and you get burned at the stake. But today, you don't have these feelings of like awe about it, surely. Well, okay. Good. You
Tech is so cool.
You absorb the Middle Ages and you hold them deeply, and every morning you're like, oh, I should have a cold shower.
Like, and I like saw a record player yesterday, and I just stared at it for a solid minute, like trying to understand and break it down and look at it. So I'm still maybe an awesome.
Yeah, and it's amazing what humans as a tool-making species can create, and that's our glory, if anything else, right? As pretty smart beings, as smart as we are, also maybe very dumb, but
The relevance is always
we get to judge. We get to judge, right? we do the relevance. But I would say that I would take there would be many things that I would be cautious to bet about, but I would take a solid bet against us treating technology, even impressive to us right now, technology with reverence later. I think we're going to take it for granted. We're going to roll our eyes at it. And someone mentions the divine in the same context and the whole room bursts out laughing. So
love that. That's a solid spot to end in. Thank you all so much for joining. There were a couple questions that came through, and they all kind of centered around this one thing, which is, are we going to do this again?
Well, I don't know if we'll record it again. We do it all the time.
Yeah, right. This is a constant occurrence. And now we tried to make sense of it publicly. But hopefully we'll be able to do it again. Obviously, reshare, we're going to save this. So the more interest that you all have, the more inspiration that we would have to get together and do this again. Thank you all so much for joining. This was an absolute freaking blast. Huge thank you to Cassie Kozyrkov. Her Instagram handle is @datacassie, DATACASSIE. Her Twitter is, I don't know how to pronounce it.
No one does. It's Latin, so make your own up. Quesita.
Quesita.
No, I don't.
Okay. QUAESITA.
And it's so nerdy. It means the opposite of data. Data is what's given, and this is what's sought. And I thought in 2009 that I'm going to do something intellectual. Now no one can pronounce it. So sorry to everyone involved.
And her LinkedIn, thankfully, is just her name. So you'll be able to find her there. She's got over 500,000 followers. Let's add a couple more. Again, thank you all for joining, and huge thank you to Cassie and for all of you guys asking such fantastic questions, both before the session and during. We love you all. Thank you.